Good evening and welcome, Dr. Lamb. This is an executive summary presentation for Team 2 on the case study of RemyCake Bakery. My name is Gina Marie and I am one of 5 members of our team. Let me introduce you to the team. We have Dana, Jess, Joe, and Stephen. Wi-Fi! The reason for our meeting today is to identify RemyCake Bakery's issues and problems. They originally started off as a remarkable company that had excellent culture values. They included empowerment, commitment, and presentation or participation within the group itself. Over time, the company has expanded and has lost members of their senior group. This created a problem and additional issues that had built up. This presentation will cover some of those issues, and it will also offer recommendations regarding solutions that we have come up with. I would like to now turn over the floor to Jess, who is going to talk a little bit about what those challenges are facing RemyCake Bakery.
Go.
Thanks, Gina Marie. My name is Jess. I'm going to be going over some of the challenges that we think we've observed with RemyCake and how we describe these as interwoven challenges. And what we mean by that is like a layer of a cake. They all kind of played a part in a bigger picture, which is a changing culture. More specifically, we attribute this mostly to an organization that was growing and expanding. And as they grew and expanded, it put a lot of stress on the company to maintain that culture that they were once known for. For example, there are a lot of new employees being brought into this company who may not necessarily fit those previously held standards and expectations. And also, they wouldn't be as performing at a high level as some of these other employees. And the experienced employees who were with the organization for quite a while, they kind of get moved and transferred to all these different stores as the company's growing. So what you have is you start off with a really core kind of group of people that are being spread out, and it just isn't. It's kind of diluting the pool, so to speak. One of these other layers to the cake, if you will, is that the founders are not seen at the bakery frequently, and that has a negative impact on the culture as well, knowing that the owners aren't present and aren't aware of what's going on, whether that's because they're busy trying to expand the business or they're just getting older and looking to retire themselves. And a lot of the original employees that helped start this business as a third layer here, have moved on to other things. They've gone to college, retired, had to move, take other jobs, things like that. So we kind of see a void in the culture of RemyCake, and we think that's mainly contributing to the slipping customer sales and the slipping customer service levels in that organization. So that's just a quick overview of what we think are the interwoven challenges at RemyCake. So now that we've kind of defined what we think are some of the challenges facing RemyCake, we wanted to offer some solutions to these problems. In summary, since we feel that company culture is what has declined and caused these negative outcomes to come to pass at RemyCake, we think that a lot of the focus should be on improving and adjusting the company culture and company values to address those issues. So primarily, we think that RemyCake needs to do a better job at defining company values and cultures and making that part of an organizational approach to how they carry out their business going forward. With this, we think that they can, identify people in the organization that are able to perform at high levels and execute those values and cultural norms, and then help plan for the future so that they make sure that this doesn't happen again. We hope that RemyCake continues to expand and grow, and they're going to need a more long-term plan to making sure that company culture is where they want it to be, and more intentional and less accidental. But with that said, this is largely a function of leadership. We don't see this as just flipping on a light switch and saying, okay, problem solved, we push the button and we're done. We think it's more of a leadership function to make sure that these things happen. And they're probably going to take quite a bit of time to address all these issues at the heart and the core of those issues. So, for example, some specific recommendations that we have. We're looking for leaders to be identified in each location that can kind of inspire those teams and those business units to uphold the values and the culture that are important to RemyCake once they've defined what that culture is. From there, those leaders are going to have a tough job ahead of them. They're going to have to kind of overcome the resistance from people who may not necessarily agree with those cultural values and norms, and either help them to find agreement or help them exit the organization if they're just not a good fit. So they're going to have to deal with the reaction to that type of change and to that adjustment to the cultural norms. They're going to have to manage the relationships, the politics, and kind of the overall company image while they're doing this. And while they're doing that, we want them to develop their employees to help them get to this place where everyone knows what the company expectations are and what the values are, and that helps drive company culture back to where it was once great. So specific things that they're going to be doing in that, working on team building and team development and team management specifically. So again, we kind of see this cultural deficit as something that can be fixed with better leadership. And with that said, this isn't just a one-time thing, right? It's going to take years, and it's going to take a constant evolution and refinement of these practices to really get that culture back to where it once was great. So that's just an overview of some of the recommendations. I'm going to turn it over to Joe at this point for more details on those.
All right, so one of the solutions we recommend is the leadership challenge. And the leadership challenge is based off experience of leaders and from a variety of organizations. The leaders themselves were employees, managers alike, ranging from old to young, women and men. It didn't matter what their title was, but the point is leaders are everywhere and anyone can make a difference. So the first practice there's 5 practices total. The first practice is modeled away. So with modeled away, behavior earns respect. One way to model away is to take initiative, display leadership, set high standards, know what your valuables and principles are, know what your core values are, and set an example for others. And an example in the research here was Dave, an engineer at Intel, stated that you do not have to be a manager to be a leader, but you have to know what your values and principles are. So the second practice is inspire a shared vision. So to inspire a shared vision, leaders have to imagine a future within the organization from every perspective, from every employee's perspective. It's important to create that vision for the employees and have them be not committed to it, but believe in it. Another aspect is creating confidence in their abilities, and again, you can't really command commitment from people, but you have to inspire it. Another way is to help make everyone a creative thinker in any way possible. Give them the option to creatively think to help the organization value their input. An example of this was Raj, at a product manager at Google, says you have to have a vision in mind and be clear what is important in your organization. So the next practice is challenge the process. So To challenge a process, you cannot achieve your personal best by keeping things the same, and that's one thing with RemyCake is they kind of kept things the same even though they expanded a lot. So to be their best, they have to make changes to be the best. Leaders try new things, they meet challenges head on, willing to step into the unknown. And another thing is innovation comes from listening, not always telling. You got to search for opportunities, experiment, take risks, learn from experience, and learn from mistakes. So the next practice is enable others to act. It's important for group collaboration, individual accountability. It's important to build trust and relationships among the team. Engage all people involved in any kind of aspect of work. To help others to strengthen themselves through self-determination. And again, be open-minded and take everybody's opinions into heart when you're thinking of new ways of doing things. Allow others to make decisions. So the last practice is encourage the heart. So recognition is powerful. Recognizing your employees for what they do is a great way to make them feel motivated and committed to the team, committed to their organization itself. When employees do good, you need to celebrate their success, show appreciation for their excellence, help people feel that they're cared about and genuine within the organization. And then when people deserve credit, give them positive feedback. If someone does something good, give them that positive feedback. If there's something bad going on, let them know how they could do better. And then just improve morale by allowing others to improve on their own. Give them opportunities to make things better within themselves and the organization. The next section is going to be Steve. He is going to talk about energizing and mobilizing the organization.
Thanks, Joe, for that introduction. Just some of the things we wanted to talk about were that strong leaders energize their employees. And some of the things that we've come across is that leaders all have influence, right? And everyone has influence. So in essence, everyone is a leader, but a strong leader uses their employees and helps them understand that they also have influence among other people within the organization and even among the customer base. So what's most important for RemyCake is its ability to reflect on where it came from and how far it's come since then. Using that influence and continually refreshing itself through the cycles that not only will help it get back to where it wants to be, but where it wants to go in the future, right? So leadership and management should be open and completely honest with themselves when they're doing these continual assessments. And by going through the constant cycle that management, policies, ideas, and employee satisfaction, as well as customer satisfaction, that's the way it's going to start. That's the way it's going to improve itself. So leadership builds the foundation for the company and plays a huge role in making any necessary changes, not only now, but in the future as well. All right? So to understand more of what the leadership's going to do, we're going to talk a little bit from Dana.
Thank you, Stephen. So we understand that the current leadership of RemyCake, they weren't formal leaders before, but now they've moved into formal positions of leadership. And, with these new positions, they're responsible for not just living the culture, they're also responsible for teaching the culture and holding the team accountable and being actual real life leaders. So one of the things that we found in our research, we came across information from Tom Roth, who is a COO of Wilson Learning Worldwide. And what he set forth were 5 questions that employees need the answers to. And they need these answers in order to feel connected, to feel engaged, and to feel a sense of purpose in their work. And these questions are pretty straightforward. And at one point, RemyCake was probably doing these things naturally and may have moved away from it just as the bakery has grown. But the questions are this: where are we going? What's expected of me? How am I doing? What's in it for me? And where do I go for help? These seem pretty straightforward, but as an employee myself, I know how important it is for my security in my position and for me to do a good job that I need to know the answers to these questions. And I don't need to always have to ask those questions. I need to know that my leader is going to provide the answers to these questions to me. So for the first one, where are we going? So the goals of the organization and the strategy for achieving those goals really need to be clarified. And they need to be clarified by the leaders. The team needs to truly understand what the goal is of the organization and how they plan on getting there. And one of the ways that the leaders can do this is they can plan and structure activities that fall in line with the goals and fall in line with the strategies of the organization. So what's expected of me? This seems fairly simple, but I think the biggest issue, and I've had this experience in my own life as well, is not knowing what the expectations are of me in completing my job. So as the leaders of RemyCake, it is going to be really important for the leadership to let the team know what the expectations are and to also let them know what the standards and the goals are. If I don't know what you expect from me, there is no way I can possibly achieve it. And that is some of the issue that we're seeing with RemyCake currently. And if our leadership thinks about this every day and they lead with this every day, then our team can be on point and they can all be on the same page. And with the expectations, there's an understanding that this is an ongoing process because the expectations have changed over the years. In the beginning, the expectations for RemyCake were one thing because the organization was small. But as they've grown, the expectations have changed. So as these expectations have changed and continue to change, the leadership needs to make sure that they are staying in touch with the team. That as things change, as even the culture changes and new products come out, new services come out, new customer service expectations and standards evolve, that the team is constantly being updated and they know what the expectations are of them. Third, how am I doing? And Joe spoke about this a little bit earlier. He talked about feedback. Feedback is so important. If I don't know what I'm doing well, I can't necessarily keep doing it. If I don't know what I'm messing up, I'm going to keep messing up. So feedback is really important. Frequent feedback is really important. Employees perform better when they know how they're doing, when they're receiving feedback about their work. It keeps them on the same page and it maintains a consistent understanding of the expectations. So, number 4, what's in it for me? And no, this is not just about money. So originally, the original team at RemyCake were shareholders. That's not what's happening now with the RemyCake Bakery. So what's in it for these employees? And it's not necessarily all about money or being a shareholder. But what is important is for the leader to understand what motivates each employee, for them to take the time to build relationships with each of the employees so they know what motivates them, what gets them to do the best, what gets them achieving the highest, what makes them feel empowered, what makes them feel fulfilled. And it's important that they know these things so that they can motivate the employees, so that they can communicate with them in a way that they can best receive information, and they can make them feel empowered. So lastly, but not least, where do I go for help? It's important that the team always knows that they have support. And it is the leader's responsibility to provide a safe space for their employees. When there are issues, it is the leader's responsibility to help the team resolve those issues. a safe place to make mistakes is really a great environment for the team to develop themselves, to feel empowered. If they know that if they make a mistake and their leader is going to support them, their team leader is going to help them work through the problem, help them identify and work through the issue, they're more likely to step outside of their comfort zone. They're more likely to exceed the expectations. They're more likely to make that extra effort to solve problems on their own. So having a safe and supportive environment to make mistakes and grow is extremely important, and the leaders provide that support. So we suggest that the leadership team across the organization make it a habit to think about these things on a regular basis and to lead with these 5 questions in mind. Thank you. Gina, you can bring us home.
Thank you, Dana. So let's recap. RemyCake Bakery has several issues. One of them is introducing change agents into the company. By doing this, RemyCake Bakery offers opportunities for the new members and the existing members to build upon the skills that they already have and to share them with other members. Jess made some recommendations about developing the employees, the managers, and the leaders within the company. By doing this, you're strengthening all the members and you're bringing together a healthier relationship between them and offering opportunities for them to grow. Steve talked a little bit about energy and mobility, or energizing the members of the organization to become better leaders, to influence the employees. Great, valuable information to use. And we recommend that RemyCake Bakery takes an opportunity to utilize that information. In addition to that, Joe talked a little bit about the leadership challenges. He mentioned the 5 practices for better leadership. Also very valuable, and recommended that RemyCake Bakery uses those practices to build their core values. Dana talked about understanding leadership and the importance that the leaders within the organization take the time to listen to all employees, customers, give feedback, and support. In conclusion, we like to say, change agents are important. Improving the leadership status and providing better opportunities for problem solving and decision making.